welcome to a special bonus episode of Character Creation Spotlight, everyone. In this bonus segment, we'll be shining a light on some current or up-and-coming games to keep an eye out for. I'm one of your hosts, Amelia, and today, my co-host Ryan and I are welcoming Ben Wallis to talk about Broken, a two-player tragic romance RPG.
Welcome to Character Creation Spotlight, Ben. It is really great to have you here with us.
Thank you so much. I really can't tell you how much it means to be here. I'm really excited to be talking with you both.
I'm so excited for this.
Yep.
I'm so excited for this.
It's
I'm
so
just going
good.
to whisper it, and then Ryan, you can make it louder. And I'm so excited for this. I can't wait.
Yeah, I am very excited.
Vibrating.
Ben, could you start off by telling us a bit about yourself and what sort of projects you have going on right now, aside from Broken, and maybe where people can find you online?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am Ben, and I'm also known sometimes on social media as That Gamer Priest. So you don't forget me. Oh, yeah, that's That Gamer Priest.
That one, not the other one.
Exactly. I'm the co-founder of the All Ports Open Network. The All Ports Open Network has been around for about 5 years. We do podcasts and streams related to TTRPG content and stories, audio dramas, and we recently launched Apon Games, which is our TTRPG publishing wing of the All Ports Open Network. And we sort of specialize in making games that are all about telling great stories. They also are good at doing like background work a lot of them are good at doing background work for storytelling. So, world building, and sort of like expanding a setting, or even games that might be that a author might use to help set groundwork for a fictional setting or something like that. So that's kind of our heart and soul of what we do in our Apon Games game wing that we recently launched. So we just launched a game called The Hard Lessons that just finished its funding, so that's kind of what we do. I'm also the host of Holy Happy Hour Batman, which is a Monday night TTRPG talk show where Heroes of the Gaming and Geek World join me to talk about life, faith, spirituality. The two of you have been on that show.
It was a lot of fun. I really enjoy that show.
Absolutely.
Thank you. So yeah, that's sort of who I am and what I do.
Very cool. Well, thanks so much for being here.
No, thank you.
Since this is an abridged version of our normal format, we will be sticking to the highlights of the system with special focus on character creation. So without further ado, how about we find out what this game is all about?
What's in a game?
All right. Could you start off by telling us a bit about the core concept for Broken?
Yeah, so Broken is so it's funny, I kind of introduce it in different ways depending on my audience. Since this is a very TTRPG audience, I would say it's a duet cooperative storytelling game. It's an artifact and ritual-based game centered around telling the story of a breakup of some sort between two characters. Usually it's told a romantic story. And so you create two characters, you create their relationship and their relationship dynamics. You gather it's, like I said, it's artifact based. So you gather 10 physical objects that over the course of 10 scenes, as you are slowly breaking up, you break each of these objects until all you're left with is broken objects and broken hearts. And the game is over.
And it's awful.
It is. It can be pretty gut wrenching. It's a very emotional game, very emotionally deep game, very visceral, very tactile, physical, can be very cathartic. Yeah. So sort of all of those things.
Yeah. We always ask what kind of setting you play in. In this one, you are playing out a relationship. So I sort of assume it kind of depends on the relationship.
Yeah.
Is this game kind of meant to do like only realistic relationships, or can you do kind of anything that you want to with it?
Yeah, I was really intentional about this. When I wrote the game, I very much wanted it to have flexibility, that the like immediate thing that comes to mind when you think about the game or when you read the book or go to play it might be like creating a very realistic relationship that tells a story of two people who you might see and read in real life and their story of their breakup. But I really wanted it to have the flexibility, and I use examples in the rules, in the rule text, of all kinds of things, like a space emperor and their like I can't remember what phrase I used, like love prince or something. Like I really wanted to like just put out who knows what kinds of characters you might come up with, and I really wanted the game to do two things at the same time. This is such an important like design thing for me, was I wanted it to both very much capture as much as I could manage to figure out how to do, very much capture the visceral feelings of a breakup, a romantic breakup, and also to have enough flexibility that if two people wanted to play it in kind of a lighthearted, almost maybe not quite lighthearted, but a little bit lighthearted kind of way. Like we had playtesters who told the story of their D&D characters. They were already pre-existing D&D characters from their campaign that had gone their separate ways. And they decided to play this game to tell how the two of them broke up as like adventuring partners. And so I very much wanted the game to have enough flexibility that you could be as creative as you want with it. So yeah, so like the kind of like default setting I think most people will think about when they read the book or play the game is a real life romantic relationship, but it certainly I think has the flexibility to do lots of things. And so one of the things we might get to do, and I hope we do, is if the game goes over our crowdfunding goals and we could do stretch goals, we have some designers lined up who will write scenarios for the game.
Oh, okay.
Scenarios are sort of like pre-packaged situations, like characters, their meet cute, who they are, where they are, the objects list that you would gather or write down on a popsicle stick. Basically all the stuff you would need to play the game and let you jump right in. And I really want those people to like do out of the box things.
I could see that being really helpful for people too, though, because this game, having read through it a couple of times, is like really powerful. Like there's a lot happening. There's a lot of emotions. And I think, you know, having the opportunity to play with a play set that somebody else wrote that kind of gives you at least that little bit of distance from the subject matter might be really helpful for some people, because I can see very easily as somebody, like if I sat down to play this, even with the intention of being like, I'm not going to play my relationship. I'm not going to play my relationship. I am not going to play my relationship. Oops, look it. It's my relationship. So it might be kind of nice to have some like pieces to sort of separate you at least a little bit. You know, that might be good, not only on like an entry level thing, but also just like an emotional strength and wherewithal kind of thing to have too. It'd be really cool to see what people bring to it though. You did one recently with was with Dora from Alchemistresses too, didn't you?
Oh my gosh, that was one of the
I didn't get to watch yet. And so like I need to find time to sit down and do it, because as soon as I saw that the two of you were doing it together, I was like, I need to know how this goes.
It was so good. I could not recommend it enough. The whole stream is very long because we did a mashup, which I'm now kind of obsessed with doing with Broken, but we used Alchemistresses to create Alchemistresses characters, fully and authentically Alchemistresses characters. And
which already has like very, you know, like complicated love story stuff happening.
Yeah, exactly. And then we took two of those characters and we just played Broken with them. And it was such a great way to play Broken. Like, it was so fun. And Dora was amazing. And it was such a great, it was such a great version of the game. It helped me as the designer to be like, wow, the flexibility that this game has to do different things is so cool. Seeing it in like a magical girl anime setting. One of the things I really have come to enjoy about playing Broken with people, because this is kind of like my favorite stuff about it is playing with people who have ideas that aren't mine. That's like my favorite thing. And so like one of the things people have kind of introduced to me that I didn't anticipate for this game necessarily, which is that you can take like what I'm calling playing in the margins. So like I played a rom-com with somebody, and it was like a very stereotypical 80s rom-com. And the way we kind of set those scenes was that it was like all of the Broken scenes that we played out were like the moments right after the scene that would be in the 80s rom-com movie. So if you picture like an 80s rom-com movie, you know, you have so we would sort of say, okay.
It's always like the moment they get together, then the movie's over.
Yeah.
Or the scene ends. Like the good thing happens, and then we never like see what happens after that.
Yeah. And so even like along the way, so like we did, like there was, you know how a lot of 80s movies, there's like the male protagonist shows up the antagonist in a big scene where everyone ends up cheering for the protagonist by the end of it. We did one of those, but like what you forgot about, because we haven't said this on the show, but the main scene framing is the ritual for that is that one person says, remember when, and then sets a scene. And the other player says, but you forgot about, and sets a scene. So the way we treated that was but you forgot abouts were basically all like in this case, you forgot about how when that thing was happening that was so great that everybody was cheering for, like you left me behind or you hurt me in some way. So we were kind of playing in the margins of the 80s rom-com story. And then with Alchemistresses, like what was so fun about that was it was like it was like scenes that were part of the anime season for the Alchemistresses characters. And so like we had combat in Broken. Like we had like magical girl combat in that game, which I never expected to have that. So it was just a really fun way to play it.
We'll have to put a link to that in our show notes too, because we had so much fun with Alchemistresses and with the complicated relationship stuff happening in there. It's so good. Yeah. It's so good.
I love that game.
And I know something that our audience enjoyed. Yeah. And I love this game, and just like the mashup of the two, it just that's too many feelings to feel, I think, maybe. But I'm no expert, so I'm sure it'll be okay. You'll be fine. What could possibly go wrong, right? Well, too many feelings.
Yeah.
Well, you've got my mind reeling with ideas for characters for this game right now. But before we can dive in to more of that, we need to find out what sort of materials do we need to play a game of Broken?
Yeah, so there's two fundamental ways to play the game, and for both of them, you need index cards. You need a total of 12 index cards, 5 for each player character, and you can use I've used all kinds of stuff, scraps of paper, stuff like that to play. But basically, 6 index cards, 5 for each person to write their traits down, 1 to just kind of write a simple character description, and then you need to get objects because it's an artifact-based game. So one way to play, I don't know if I want to call it the core way to play or not, but one way to play is to find and gather 10 physical real-life objects that you will then break over the course of the scenes. So sometimes people bring 5 each. Sometimes one person brings all 10. Sometimes people go to a thrift store together and buy all the objects.
That sounds fun.
It is my favorite way to play the game. It's an absolute delight.
If we play this one, that would be how I would want to do it.
I think that sounds fun. Yeah, absolutely. We're not going to bring in the TV or the stereo. No,
we'll go get our own stuff. Yeah, and just grab stuff from around your house. And
well, I have done that too. Stuff and sometimes it's a good way to clear out stuff you don't want to have anymore around your house. But the other way to play, and I don't have that with me. Not that this is a video medium because it's not, but another way to play is you can have popsicle sticks and you can create your 10 objects by writing them on the popsicle sticks. They're really convenient, easy to find, and then they break really easily. I found that they're just such a really great way to play because they give you a really good snap when you snap them in half.
Really cathartic.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and you need a device to record a voicemail memo because one of the things you do in the game is record a message for the other person.
Yeah, that's very cool. I like that.
Yeah.
I was reading through that mechanic earlier, and I was like, "Oh, that's brilliant."
I should find the note that I wrote on that mechanic. I believe it amounted something to just "My God, Ben, why?" when I was making comments on these things.
So good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep. That's what my God, Ben, why? No.
Well, you tell me when you want me to talk about why, and we can talk about it because,
our next question here, we can kind of start getting into some of this stuff. This game is a little bit different from most games.
Yeah.
There isn't just a straight character creation, but it also plays really differently. So can you just give us kind of a quick rundown to start maybe of just how this game works and how character creation especially works in this system?
Absolutely. So basically you decide, the two people who are going to play the game decide together what kind of scenario they want to play in, what kind of relationship story they want to tell, what types of characters they want to make. So you might do that by collecting the 10 objects first and then being inspired by them. Or you might decide beforehand and then collect and make the objects based on that. It's kind of up to the players how they want to approach that. For like over the weekend, I recorded a game with my wife that we're going to put on Pod of Love as an actual play of the game. I'm actually sitting here right now surrounded by the objects we got from the thrift store for that. And so like we based that game off of the objects that we found. And so we like, for example, we got a tiny violin that is actually a musical box that plays My Heart Will Go On from Titanic.
Oh my God.
Which is, I think, the ultimate broken object. Like, I mean, when I say that, I mean,
that's like perfect.
Exactly.
Wow.
Like, I don't know that we'll ever top that object for breaking.
I'm kind of like sad that you're going to like break it.
Oh, we did already.
Like,
it's sitting here. It is a tiny broken violin.
It's the saddest, tiniest violin.
Yeah.
Wow.
It still plays My Heart Will Go On, which is kind of the best part. Like, there's no plays it.
That's even more perfect.
I know. It really is. So
its heart will go on, little violin. You can do it.
Yeah, exactly. So once you've decided like what your scenario is going to be, what you do is you decide, okay, we're each going to play this kind of character. You take a few minutes to write down a few sentences about your character and a name on one of the index cards that you set aside. So you like basically what the camera would see as it's panning over them on like a TV show or movie, essentially. And then what you do then is you take the 5 index cards and you tell each other what you wrote down first. So you kind of have an idea who the other person is playing. Then you take your 5 index cards and you create 5 traits. But these are kind of different than a lot of other games because what they really are things that you like or love or are attracted to about the other person, or things that you like about being in a relationship with them. And they're from your character's perspective. So that means that they're subjective. They're not objective. So like, for example, one example that I use in the book, because this came from a real game, is that I might write down that, I hope you don't mind me using your name, Ryan. I might write down that Ryan likes to be teased as one of my things. That's from my character's perspective. Ryan might really hate being teased, which is probably where the tension of the game will come from. But that is what my character likes about being in a relationship with Ryan. Or I might just say someone's, beautiful tentacles or whatever, depending on the kind of characters you're playing. Right. And then those end up being things that you become disillusioned with over the course of the game. So the game is a ritual. Every scene, you take turns. Someone picks an object. It's just meant to be a prompt, an inspiration for setting the scene. If you had a record, you might do a scene based around music or dancing or a record store. I mean, it's completely up to you, but it's just sort of you pick up an object, to help inspire you for a scene. And then the person who has the object starts by saying, remember when, and then describes essentially what the scene is. And then the other person adds a twist or complication by saying, but you forgot about. And then they add that twist or complication in there. Yeah. So
I really loved that part of it when I was reading through it, because I think it gives people a chance to learn and understand empathy in a breakup in a way that we don't always get to when we're right in the middle of it. Yeah. Right? I mean, even that example of like, I like that Ryan loves to be teased. Yeah. But Ryan might not really actually like to be teased. The idea that we see a breakup only from our own perspective, and that might not be the only truth that there is.
Exactly.
There's something kind of in the middle. And I love when role-playing games give us the opportunities to learn things like empathy and compassion. Yeah. In sort of a safe space. And this game plays with those kinds of things a lot, with that, like, I remember it this way, but you know what? You also forgot that there was this whole other part of it that like I associate with that situation that you don't even recall. Yeah. And it's really cool and it's really deep. And the way that you've done it is so quick that like you don't realize it's happening. It's very smart.
Thank you.
It's very smart.
Thank you. Yeah, I really wanted it to. So I work with a lot of people going through relationship struggles, and I'm a product of divorce myself. Or product is a weird way to phrase that, but I went through a real difficult.
A survivor of.
Yeah, there you go. I see. The reason why I said that is because I like try not to use that phrase because it just feels a little bit more than I want to say about it, especially for my ex. Like I don't want to. Makes me feel like I'm saying my ex is a killer.
Right. No, I mean I do feel that way sometimes too. Yeah, when I say that because it's like okay, it's like really not like the worst person. Like I just saw him yesterday. He's fine. But like. Yeah. You know, but like, yeah, I mean, you survived it. You lived through the divorce. Like, even if you didn't necessarily need to live through the person, you lived through the process.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I really wanted to explore those themes you just described. I think I lost my actual train of thought. No, you're fine. It wasn't, trust me, it was me, not you. But yeah, so that was intentional, like wanting, so not seeing things the same way, looking back and seeing it differently. All that stuff was really core to what I wanted to, have the game explore because of the fact that those are, I wanted people to be able to process those very real things that happen when you go through a breakup and I wanted the game to reflect that. And I wanted characters and character creation to reflect that a lot too, which is why the character creation is so intentional.
Yeah, I think those are things that you just, in a relationship, you're just too close to it to really do. And even once you're so far removed from it, you don't have like the strength of memory necessarily to do that kind of work. And so I really appreciate that this kind of gives you the space to do some of that work, even if it's not directly related to your own trauma or breakup or however you want to word it.
Yeah.
But that it still gives you the chance to sort of stretch some of those empathy muscles.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. Yeah. I really wanted to, you just reminded me, I wanted to layer those things like the ability to learn that or think about those things or experience like some empathy development. I wanted to layer that into the game so that it just kind of happened very quickly and seamlessly without being hopefully too heavy-handed. At least that's what I wanted to do. So
yeah, there's no part in there where you're like, and now it's time to learn the lesson that you should have learned all along. Like, like there's no feeling like that of like, I'm sitting down to do this because I need to learn. It just feels like it came very now. I like honestly was shocked at like how seamlessly it seems to just sort of fit in there.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I'm really excited about this game.
Thank you.
In case people can't tell, like I'm so excited.
I feel like I from hearing other people read the book and play the game, I feel like I met my design goals, which is always a really good feeling when you're trying to design something that you believe in very much, like I believe in.
Right. Well, and something that sounds like it's so close to you personally too.
Oh goodness, yes.
It's hard. It's hard. It's like the closer you are, the more you want it to be a thing that exists in the world, but the harder it is to do.
Exactly. So true.
Well, I am very excited to get to like trying out the character creation in this. And it's 2 characters for each scenario, right? So I'm wondering if we're all okay, can we create 3 pairs?
Do we have time?
Do we have time? Is it fast enough?
I think so. I mean, it probably depends on how much. It probably depends on the way we approach it. But yeah.
But yeah, it's more, like, I don't know if you have dinner to do or whatever.
I'm personally good to go.
Okay.
Yeah, I should be fine too.
Let's do it.
Wonderful. Let's make some people.
I don't have any popsicle sticks, but I do have index cards.
Let's make some people.
All I have is my Notepad++.
Notepad++. See, why do you always say that? Why can't you just say Notepad?
Because it's not Notepad, it's Notepad++.
Okay.
It's Notepad +1.
No, it's
because plus is programmer speak for add 1 to the previous result.
I have just a butt ton of note cards.
That's awesome. See, I'm not.
Some of them have stuff on them, I think, but.
So for the purposes of this, I'm just going to use a Google spreadsheet, actually, or not spreadsheet even, but like just a Google Doc, honestly, just for doing this podcast. It's so easy peasy.
Yeah.
We probably could all like be in the same one, and then we could see what we were doing, maybe. Or I could just write on my note cards because I like writing on note cards.
There you go.
Either way.
All right. So, who wants to start first? And how should Amelia and I go through.
Would you like to walk us through how to do it?
Without a doubt,
first?
I would love to do that. So this is what I will say. You just sort of decide. Here's what I think would be fun. Just decide whether you want to be inspired by 10 objects or whether you want to create the scenario first, and then you can just kind of write down 5 so either way you'll write 5 objects each, but you can decide whether you want to write the objects before or after you decide on the scenario.
What are you thinking, Ryan?
So I had a very specific scenario in mind, and I don't mind.
Is it magical girls and necromancers?
Oddly, no.
What?
but
Why are we here?
We could do magical girls and necromancers for this, and then I could save this one for Ben if we want. Should I throw out my idea?
Yeah, let me hear your idea, and then I can yes or no it.
So in my Highlander game, our Final Gathering, the dreaded reflections of the immortal soul, there is a character archetype. I believe it's the love interest. Mm-hmm. And part of the love interest story in the game is you were once in love with reciprocatingly with another character. Yeah. At the table. Mm-hmm. So and then you broke up eventually. Yeah. But Highlander, being you're playing Immortals, that breakup could have spanned decades.
I see.
That's so cool.
See, I think maybe you should save this for Ben because Ben understands any of these references.
That's true. I
have not ever seen a Highlander movie or care about Highlander.
No, that's perfect.
I'm a so big Highlander fan, so yeah.
Not the target audience.
Yeah. Okay.
I very much
Ben
am.
is like, yes, let's do it.
Very much am.
Okay.
All right, so let's lead into our nonsense then, Amelia.
Okay. All right. The
I'll be a
undying bonds of love and
necromancer.
friendship.
You'll be a magical girl, right?
Yeah.
No.
Oh my God, should we?
No. That might be too much.
Ryan's like, I can't play a necromancer convincingly. Okay.
So then what I would say is just like each of you come up with 5 objects and a name and description for your character. And then you can kind of decide a little bit like about the scenario, like, are we already together at the start of the game? How long? Those kinds of details. And then you can do traits.
Okay.
Oh, wonderful.
So let's think of some objects here.
Okay.
Oh no, my pen's like out of ink. I'll think while I refill my pen. It's great audio.
It certainly makes the whole process a lot faster when you do it the writing objects down on popsicle sticks way versus having to collect physical objects. Yes. It makes it a faster process for a quick game. It also it is a very different process because
I'd say it feels different. Like I feel like you're just not attached to the thing the same way.
Well, yeah, that's an interesting point because I wonder about that. I have seen some people pretty emotional about a non-existent physical object.
Pretty emotional about that popsicle stick.
Yeah, because of what it came to represent. It's interesting how we put meaning into things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the meta nature of finding and gathering objects is also just a very special thing to do.
Yeah, Ryan and I keep talking about trying to find some time to get together because we're really not that we've, been together in person like all of 3 times. But we only live an hour and a half apart.
Right.
And now he's got his little podcast studio. So I think it'd be fun to go find a little thrift shop in Appleton and go find
absolutely.
some stuff and play this.
I agree 100%.
I'm trying to think of what kind of objects would I have. How many do you have? I have 1.
I've got 1 so far too.
All right.
Should we list them off as we go?
Sure, we can. So far I have an empty love potion bottle.
Oh, I've got the transformation brooch of a lost teammate.
Ooh.
That's so good.
Your face is like
it's so good.
Okay, I've got another one.
Okay.
Our shared diary.
Oh my gosh.
I have a broken sword from a fallen foe.
Oh, that's so cool.
Is it one of your friends? We may never know. Let's see here. I feel like this is an enemies to lovers to enemies situation.
Yep.
That classic trope.
It's a good trope.
It is.
I'm going to say a dried bouquet of flowers.
Oh, that's
from
good.
a date night.
Oh, I love that.
What was that? That's 3. Because it's me making a character, I'm going to say a tiny crystal flamingo.
Nice. The remains of the orb of darkness that almost consumed us.
Ooh,
So
classic.
I love it.
The ring I was going to give you.
Oh my gosh.
I think that is 5.
My favorite coat that you gave me when we were just friends.
Oh, very nice. Is that 5 for you then?
I've got one more.
Okay. These are already brutal.
They really are.
Oh no.
Ryan.
My transformation brooch.
You're right. These ones are already brutal.
We haven't even done anything to them
You
yet.
haven't done anything with them. They're just brutal.
Giving them 0 context.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just going to read mine once real quick so that we have it all out. I have a tiny crystal flamingo, a dried bouquet of flowers from a date night, a broken sword from a fallen foe, an empty love potion bottle, and the ring I was going to give you.
That's so good. And I've got the transformation brooch of a lost teammate, our shared diary, the remains of the orb of darkness that almost consumed us, my favorite coat that you gave me when we were just friends, my transformation brooch.
Oof. Why do we have a shared diary? We were in deep.
Yeah.
Man, you got to be like real together to share a diary.
Uh-huh.
You really do.
I can't even keep one myself.
It's intense. It's really intense. So you're going to want to now basically write, create a name and a couple of sentences about who your character is. We've kind of gotten some themes already for this game, including maybe a enemies to lovers to enemies situation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know a good name.
Names are tough.
Names are hard. Necromancer names are hardest.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan can just be like Twinkle Toes or something. It's a magical girl name I just made up.
I was thinking bubblegum something.
Bubble Gumdrop.
Bubble Gumdrop's actually a pretty good name.
I like it.
So then now I need
Bubble first name, Gumdrop last
Gumdrop
name.
is the last name.
I love that.
Pronouns
Okay, in
she,
which case,
her.
did we get married? Is my last name Gumdrop now too?
Oh.
I think my name is Darkness Gumdrop.
I like it. What was your name again then? Or are you still figuring out first name?
Well, it's going to be Darkness.
Darkness.
It's going to be my first name, and then we'll have a shared last name of Gumdrop.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, okay. Did you used to go by Lady Darkness or something like that?
I mean, probably because I couldn't go by Gumdrop.
Right.
Yeah, I'll be Lady Darkness. That's fine.
That's amazing.
She, her. Darkness Gumdrop.
Darkness Gumdrop.
So good.
And Bubble Gumdrop.
Bubble Gumdrop. Bubble and Darkness.
I can just picture the wedding, the placeholders and the invitations and all this stuff now.
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
So yeah, basically write a brief description for your character, and then when you're done, you can read them to one another.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what kind of descriptors I need aside from Necromancer named Darkness. And Ryan, what descriptors do you need besides magical girl named Bubbles? Bubble Gum.
Bubble Gumdrop?
Bubble Gumdrop, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that pretty much speaks for
It
itself.
kind of does. I mean,
it does.
I don't really know that we need a whole lot more. I like that the audience can insinuate anything they want from that.
It's true. It's pretty true.
Very, very colorful, yeah.
So what you do then is you write 5 traits, and you can kind of do this. There's the way I typically do it, but you could do it the way you did the objects too. So you could either write all 5 of them and then take turns reading them to each other, or you could do what you just did for the objects and just do one at a time. The other thing I would say is you end up stacking your 5 cards in a stack. And I encourage people in the book to try to, for whatever it makes sense, and it's not a hard and fast thing by any means, to just go from kind of the more lighthearted ones to the like harder ones, the ones that are obviously like tougher emotionally, maybe so simpler to complex in when you read them back. Not necessarily when writing them, but when reading them back, or certainly when stacking them in order, because it just sort of helps with the curve of the game.
So these ones I'm writing traits about Ryan's character.
It's stuff that you're attracted to.
What I believe about him.
Yeah, something you like about him or love about him or are attracted to or like about being in a relationship with him. So, or her, I mean, I guess, or bubblegum. So like it could be her bright blue hair. It could be one of yours if you were to write something like that.
I'm going to put endlessly optimistic.
Or it could be something like, she makes me feel safe. That's something that's like, you know, the way she makes you, like the way the other person makes you feel.
Right. I've got so far her sly smile when she gets a devious idea.
Very nice. The way she gets so excited at new opportunities.
Her villainous laugh.
The fact that she doesn't actually like rainbows. True or false, Ryan?
No comment. The excitement in her eyes when getting to use her powers, which is necromancy.
Yep. The way she recognizes when my idea is actually better.
I love that one. I love that one.
I was like, what can I write that's like kind of loaded?
Yep. Exactly.
The seriousness and focus she has in battle.
Nice.
I'm going to say how she cares more about everyone else than herself.
Oh. Sometimes it's those that are the most brutal in this game because
you know it's not true.
The things, well, you're at least going to become disillusioned with it later, and the process of becoming disillusioned with it is going to hurt. So,
her soft spot for puppies.
Oh
my gosh,
that's true. I do have one though. It's true. Just more. I love puppies more than you. Maybe we'll find out.
We're gonna have to be disillusioned about that later.
Disillusioned. You're gonna be like, we have 87 dogs here, woman. Enough.
And they're all skeletons.
They're all skeletons. It's not saving them if they don't have the skin anymore. You're not saving anything. Do I have 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So let's see here. I think actually I kind of wrote them in an order that was already a little rough. They got worse as I went along, let's say.
That's fine. All right. So we got our traits. What's next?
Yeah, that's basically character creation, because once you've done that, you're ready to play the scenes. The one thing I didn't say before is that you, at the end of every scene, you should have, I didn't mention that you need to have a candle to play this game, and preferably a fire safe bowl. You don't need to have one to make characters because we're not actually playing all the way through, but you'll want to have a candle with a fire safe bowl, because what you're going to do is each scene you're going to work towards in the narrative kind of together, because it's a cooperative game. You're going to work towards trying to have one of your characters disillusioned with the top trait in that stack. So, Ryan, what's your top trait in your 5 that would be showing?
So the one that I had here, like, do I pick one or do
you would put them in any order you want to. So which one would be your top one for your showing at the start of the game?
So now mine is endlessly optimistic.
Endlessly optimistic. So you might work towards becoming one of, your character becoming disillusioned with that. And then the way the scene, once someone feels like their top card is they've become disillusioned with that trait, they can end the scene right then and there at that moment by saying, I used to think, or I used to love, or I used to like, and reading what's on the card, and then you burn it and you break the object, and that ends the scene.
I have fire.
There you go.
This is no longer safe for work podcast.
Yeah. I used to think
fire in the building.
I used to love that you used to think that you were endlessly optimistic, and then you would burn the trait.
Oh. So
it becomes kind of rough because, becoming disillusioned with those things is the meat of the game, and the scenes that you play out.
You are not endlessly optimistic anymore, right?
Oh, no.
With that.
I hope you have a fire safe bowl.
I have like a little candle.
There you go.
It already went out. It's apparently not very flammable index card. Turns out it's just the corner of it. Kind of disappointing, honestly. Now you're just endlessly.
Oh no.
Endlessly nothing. You're endlessly nothing, Ryan.
Poor bubblegum drop.
Yeah, poor bubblegum drop. I wonder how this would go though. Like what things do you think that you would become particularly disillusioned with, Ryan? How do you see this going? Do you want to do our fanfic now or should we wait till the end?
Oh gosh. Let's wait on that. I really want to see how the other pairs kind of come to be. Okay.
All right. Well, why don't you, since you have your idea for your Highlander one, why don't you go for it?
Oh, sure. All right, Ben.
Yes.
You're down for this Highlander across millennia relationship breakup?
Yeah, let's do it.
Amazing.
Absolutely. So do you want to, okay, Highlander, why don't we do this? Why don't we talk about the scenario a little bit first and then do our objects since we already know it's Highlander and we both kind of know stuff about that. So, so we're going to do a story over a significant amount of time.
Yep.
Is sort of the end of the story, the breakup, is that sort of modern day, are we thinking?
It could be any time, I would say. It could be hundreds of years in the past. It could be a year or two before the final gathering or whatever. Yeah.
I like the idea that maybe they haven't in the final gathering, they haven't seen each other for decades.
Yeah.
So maybe it's like a 20th century breakup scene, but then of course, who knows how far back. So how far we could say who knows, we know how far back, when do we want to say we have met? How long has this been a relationship?
We met probably 2,000 years ago or something.
That. Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
And we probably had a relationship as just we knew each other as immortals and then kept running into each other. And then eventually we decided, hey, there's something here.
Yeah.
Maybe a few hundred years down the line after we met. So maybe medieval period of time or later, all the way through early Victorian would be a good starting point of a relationship.
Cool. That sounds great. All right. So that sounds good. That's probably enough for us to go off of to then go ahead and do the other things. So why don't we each do 5 objects and then do you want to do them in turns or do you want to do them and then read them back?
Let's do them as we figure them out.
Okay, cool. It's really interesting because this is definitely one where we could kind of accidentally duplicate. So reading them to each other as we write them will help that not happen. Since it's Highlander, I just feel like there's some obvious ones that could happen.
Yeah. Okay. So, catching you up, Amelia, we met over 2,000 years ago. Oh, there you go. You just want to burn stuff.
Look. Yes.
It's fine. Now we're figuring out objects.
Okay. So I'm sorry, you're going to be Highlanders.
Highlander immortals. Yep. Okay. That met over 2,000 years previous to the present day final gathering. Mm-hmm. And we broke up probably early-ish 1900s.
Okay.
And haven't seen each other for decades before we met for the final duel to the death. Oh, okay. So you're going into this duel to the death. You've broken up? Yeah. Already? Yeah. Oh, okay. And now we have to face each other one last time. And one of us is either going to lose our immortality or possibly kill the other. That's so good. It's such a good mashup. The other thing you could do for this is you could have the breakup scene could be the duel if people wanted to play it that way. If they were thinking of it that way, you could easily do that. Because the thing about the breakup scene is it doesn't follow the normal ritual procedure. Instead of one person saying, remember when, the other person says, but you forgot about, you remember the breakup scene the same way. So you sort of decide together where you break up, what the details are, how it happens. And so you could, that is just another way that someone could do that final scene. Absolutely. If we were doing this with the other game as well, I can see us doing the breakup previously, and then all of that emotional weight going into the game itself would be phenomenal.
So good.
Yeah.
So I have an object.
The breakup is the duel. Is like high stakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
All right. So objects.
I have one.
Yeah.
My father's fishing boat from my fishing village.
Okay. I've got an object. My legacy sword.
Oof. You're gonna have to break that.
Yep. A painting of you painted by me.
Oh. Why?
Our original marriage certificate equivalent from the Middle Ages.
Yeah. So like probably what that would be the wedding record book basically from the church.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because I wrote down.
You're going to take everybody down with you.
Yeah. Yes. So mine was that's interesting because my next one I wrote was, before you even said that, was a stained glass window. So I'm gonna make sure from the church. That's where I'm adding that detail.
From the church that we got married
Yeah,
at?
of course I'm adding that detail now.
Oh, amazing. Oh.
Yikes.
Okay. I wrote a letter from you. Pretty simple.
Oh, that's very good. I'm gonna say a recording of us singing together when that was first introduced technology wise. Yeah,
I love that.
Wow.
That's really good. I kind of went to the same place you did in my mind of time. And I was going to do something like, let's see. I'm not very good with years of cars, but I was going to do a car, like a 60s era Chevelle or something.
My son asked me if they had cars in the 60s the other day, and I was like, you have ridden in a 68 Mustang. Like, my dad has a 68 Mustang.
Well, they go back to the 20s, right?
They go back to 1902.
Yeah,
the first car was 1902.
Well, when do we want to break up, I guess, is the question, right?
Yeah, so we said...
do we want, to... because I was almost thinking the Flappers era.
Like 1920s?
The Roaring 20s.
So yeah, it could be that era. I'm just gonna put classic car as my object, and then in the course of play, you might inspire you to. It could inspire any number of scenes.
Yeah. I love it. Let's see. Okay. A book of poetry I wrote about you after we first met.
Oh, so good.
Do they know it's about them?
I think they would have eventually. Yeah.
Okay.
Which is now almost 2,000 years old, which is wild.
That is wild. I have 5 objects, so I went ahead and wrote a little brief description of my character.
Nice. I need one more object that spans all of time.
Mm-hmm. I think it should be some flowers you picked together at some point. Some dried flowers that you picked on the high cliffs.
You preserved them somehow.
Yeah. Oh, maybe preserved a flower in some amber.
Yeah, that's great.
From when we first started courting.
Oh.
Yep. Goodness.
This game is not for those who don't like feelings.
I know, right? Okay. So did we want to read down our list like we did with Amelia and I?
Please do, because I think I missed a couple.
Yep. All right. So my objects were my legacy sword, our original marriage certificate equivalent from the Middle Ages, which we decided was like a wedding record book, a recording of us singing together from the dawn of recording equipment.
That's my favorite one of these.
A book of poetry I wrote about you after we first met.
So rough.
A preserved flower in amber from when we first started courting.
Mine are my father's fishing boat from my fishing village, a painting of you painted by me, stained glass window from the church where we got married, an old letter from you, and a classic car.
Amazing.
Yours are big.
Yeah.
Got a boat, a car, a window.
You know what? It's because, this is because like I haven't gotten to do that in a game really where like, because I've found so many real objects to break, my desire with the popsicle stick version of the game is to always come up with just like stuff that would be so hard to actually break in real life.
That you could never do.
I love it. That's kind of why I always just default to that when I'm doing it that way.
I love it.
That's amazing. I wonder, because when you create a character in my game, you choose one of the archetypes.
Yeah.
It almost feels like, I guess, depends on what you want to be for your character and for my character. Like one of us would be the love interest, and one of them could either be the hero, the villain, the best friend, what is the other ones? Oh, the observer, like somebody that's tried to remain neutral throughout all of history. And then there's one more like side character.
The Dark Magician. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
That's why I don't play this game.
Right. But it leans into those Highlander tropes for types of characters and stuff.
Well, if you have to battle each other in the final battle after having broken up, like, what do you think the two best options for archetypes, like to end up being those would be? I mean, hero and villain is pretty obvious. That could be, but there are, I think there's other ways to do it, right? You could be the best friend is a good one. Sorry. Best
friend is definitely a good one. I wonder if just best friend and love interest would be a good combo.
I think that's the one. That's to me, that's the one that hurts me the most.
That's what makes my heart.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like the design of the game is you're there with two others, right? Okay. So there's 4 altogether. And so best friend and the love interest and whomever else.
Yeah.
So it's like, do we team up at first? Do we?
So brutal.
Ryan.
It's like the scenario that the two of you always knew could be a possibility and you never wanted to talk about or admit. I mean, that's the thing. And then I would imagine that the conversation would come up through playing the 10 scenes of Broken. Like,
you've literally had each other's back for 1,500 years.
Yeah.
Right. And like, you know that it'll come down to this at some point, but we just don't speak of it. Because if we do, that's the end of things. And now here it is.
Goodness gracious.
Look, I learned Highlander things.
I know.
Aren't you proud of me?
I am. So, brief descriptions.
Yeah.
Gosh. I need a name too.
Do you want me to read mine while you're doing that?
Yeah.
So what I wrote is, my name is Cristaldo Mano, and I go by Chris now in the modern day. But Cristaldo is a tall, dark-haired Italian man with deep, sensitive brown eyes, olive skin, and rough hands.
Oh, that's good.
The hands of a fisherman?
Yeah, exactly.
What's a good name that pairs well with that?
What are your gender feelings?
Gosh, I could go either, pretty much anyway on this one. I'm thinking classic Highlander, she, her pronouns. Gosh, like I think like a good Spanish name would be nice in this scenario.
A good Spanish lady name.
Yeah.
I mean, Isabella is.
Ooh, that's good.
That is a good one. And what was your character's last name?
Mano, Manno.
Okay. I think she probably took your name when they got married and she never let it go.
Oh boy.
This is fine. Everything's fine.
Great. Okay.
Yeah. So she's a well-dressed Spanish woman with long, flowing dark hair and a sleek rapier for her preferred sword.
Whew.
I love it.
Yeah. Oh, Okay.
Yep. Okay, so should we break hearts again?
Now we need traits now, right?
Traits. Oh, you guys still have to do traits.
Yeah.
Oh my god, we haven't even made it as bad as it could be yet.
But your character, I already got my first one cooking here.
Oh my god. Here I am thinking it can't get any worse.
I don't remember how we did it with Amelia, but do we read them as we go or all at once? I forget how we did it.
We did both. We read them like back and forth as we went, and then did a summary at the end.
So the one you inspired immediately was the way you're fighting is like dancing.
Oh yeah. I went with the depth of your gaze.
Mm-hmm. The way she smells like lilies all of the time.
Ooh, it's evocative.
The soothing sound of your heartbeat when we embrace.
Yes.
So how do you get disillusioned with that? You're like, ugh, your heartbeat, it's so loud.
Maybe it becomes more like a telltale heart sort of thing.
Ooh.
Yeah, it would be really interesting to see how that one you'd end up being disillusioned.
Yeah.
You'd probably, I mean, my instinct having played the game is probably you'd become disillusioned with like the embrace aspect of it. So like the person's touch or the way they hold them or something like that would change through some scene and through something that would happen between the two of you, the touching.
But I do like telltale heart.
I do. I like that too. No, the heartbeat would be really, if you could come up with a way to do it about the heartbeat itself, that would be really wild.
It's like suddenly I'm so aware of all the times you're lying to me.
Or like maybe Isabella wasn't 100% faithful, and so every time she hears your heartbeat, it
feels
like
guilty.
Feels guilty or something. Ugh.
Mm-mm.
Well, that made me write down, she never, ever lies to me.
Why? No. But yes. But no. But yes.
But yes.
I put but those fishermen's hands though.
Yeah, I like that one.
Those hands though. Love it.
This would also be kind of an interesting one to get disillusioned with, but I like the challenge. I wrote, years feel like minutes and minutes feel like years together.
Ooh.
Oh, that's good. Always charming in social situations.
Mm-hmm. Love it. And my last one that I have is, I feel like no one could ever hurt me when we're together. And if I was stacking these, I would definitely stack that one last without a doubt.
Yeah, right before the duel.
Yeah, exactly.
No one can hurt me.
Exactly.
Except you.
Yeah.
With your sword.
Exactly.
You have always had my back.
Yeah, that's good. It's so good. It's so good.
Wow.
Yep. Wow is right.
Alrighty.
Doing these in a row where you're making these characters, these games and not playing them is kind of brutal because it's like, oh, here's one gut wrenching scenario and here's another gut wrenching scenario. Here's another gut wrenching scenario.
Oh, it's so good though.
That's what we do here.
Yeah, I love it.
Yep.
We just hurt feelings.
Exactly. Break hearts. That's what the game is meant to do.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So now is that?
Yeah.
Now it's you two.
Now it's our turn.
All right. Any inspiration yet at all, Amelia? What are you thinking?
I'm kind of thinking I would like to, I know we've done two kind of like fantasy sort of ones already. So I'm thinking I would either like to do something that's like hyper realistic or I want to do like space.
So, you presented me with a devil's bargain.
I know, it's the unanswerable question.
It is because like, I feel that about like making a
What if it's just like hyper realistic in space?
Okay.
What if we're just like regular people doing our regular thing in space?
In space in the future. I love that. I love that.
All right.
Yes,
so do we want to like flesh out the scenario slightly more before doing the objects?
Yeah, we probably should.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how about if we are people who live on a space station? Do you think more, when you say space, are you thinking like more Star Trek or Star Wars type fantasy, like fantasy in space, or like really? We said realistic.
Kind of like I mean, I'm thinking more Star Trek. Yeah. Kind of. I mean, and at this point, when I'm talking about like normal people in space, like I'm thinking like we're dealing with like the ins and outs of space bureaucracy.
Yep. I love that.
You know, like I'd like to be like a customs agent or something.
I love that. A customs agent is good because the space station, like people are coming through the space station. They have to go through customs all the time. And, is it too much of a, okay, this is a good safety.
Would you like to also be a customs agent?
Well, my question was going to be, and this is a safety thing I think we would have to talk about as far as like a safety conversation is, what if I'm your boss or you're my boss? One of us is the other person's boss. There's a power dynamic there. So that's where there's a safety conversation.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly fine with that. Do you want to be my boss? That's fine.
It doesn't. I don't
like being in charge of things.
Okay, I can be your boss. That's fine.
Okay.
It adds an interesting power dynamic. I think that people who would play that would have to be really careful with safety tools and be on the same page about how that would go, and so that way it doesn't cross anyone's lines.
So I'm thinking in this scenario that like we worked together in customs for a while. Like maybe that's how we met. We knew each other. Your promotion is like a recent thing. Oh, I love that. And I think that's kind of what's starting to drive a wedge.
That's really good. Yeah. That's super, super good. I love that. Love it. Do we want to name the space station just for fun? I don't know if we can come up with a good space station.
Probably we should name it. I just want to call it Everlight Hunting.
I don't know what that means. I don't know why. But it
doesn't mean anything. No, but I was like, great. Those are words that together I like.
Okay. No, I think that's fabulous. Space Station Everlight Hunting.
Do you want to throw a number on the end there to make it even more like authentic?
Ryan, why don't you throw a number?
7.
Oh, thanks.
Everlight Hunting 7.
Yeah. Now we've got the name of the television series that this takes place in.
Right.
Exactly. Okay, so do you want to do any more details we should flesh out, or do you want to do objects?
I'm okay doing objects.
Cool. Let's do it.
All right. I'm going to say my first object is my badge from my very first day.
Nice. My first object...
Maybe from training. Say from training.
Yeah. My first object is a communicator.
A package of some kind of very rare food stuff that is technically illegal, but I stole for a fancy date night one time.
That's so funny that you said that, because my mind literally went to food too. I was like, okay, what's the thing I could do with food?
Because it's the way to someone's heart.
Yeah. So actually, I'm going to say for my next object, because this is where my mind went before you said that, but I'm going to roll with it and say a replicator, because it's kind of the opposite. A food replicator. So it's the opposite of what your object.
Okay. I love it.
And that could be really interesting to see how that would play out.
I'm going to say a note that I wrote past you at work one day. That's like a yes, no. Do you want to go on a date?
Oh, that's so good. Oh my gosh. I wrote a plush doll of the space station mascot, because I decided the space station has a mascot.
So I love it.
I don't know what her name is, but I'm picturing the mascot of the space station is like a little huntress with a bow and arrow. It's like the opposite of like space. It's like very...
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like very Artemis.
Yeah.
Maybe that's her name.
Maybe that's her name. Yeah, maybe it's Artemis is the space station mascot. I love that. Love it.
Okay. What do I have? 3 things. One more thing. 2 more things.
I wrote a commander's chair.
Ooh. Do you move it into our living room just to prove your point? Let's see here. A book of rules and regulations.
I love that one. That's a really good one. All right. My 5th object is a picture of me with the Admiral on the day of my promotion.
Ooh. Fine. My 5th object is going to be a picture of us on our first day together.
Yeah, that's great. I love it.
Oh, did you start working at the same time?
Yeah, I think we were in that same training class.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yep, it's incredible.
Which is why it sucks that you got promoted and I didn't. Not that I'm bitter about it at all.
But you've proven you don't like to be a leader. It's okay.
I don't want you to be one either, though. I just wanted to keep doing what we were doing.
That it makes things
I loved what we had. Okay, so now...
So we can write our names and like
names.
A name and a short description of your character.
Oh gosh, space names are even harder than real names. And I also don't know any like military order of things.
Oh yeah, I'm not great at that either, so I'm not going to do a military. I'm not going to do a military rank. I made a military I was thinking of a military implication to my look, but
Right.
but not. I'm not going to bother with a rank or anything like that.
Okay. So, names. Space names.
Yeah, I picked a very not space name very intentionally, just because we're
I
like
love it.
very normal people in space.
Good point.
So, do you want me to tell you mine while you're thinking, or do you need to just think?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I created Alex Jordan. They have short, cropped blonde hair. I'm thinking that they are like, I was kind of imagining that they're ex-military turned like customs agent, like they kind of went civilian, or maybe they just left like more frontline military service for like for this type of posting. If this is a military job, which it doesn't matter to me, which which it is. But they have short, cropped blonde hair. They're also short in height, but strong, short but strong, and very fast. That is my description I wrote.
Okay. So I named my person Cressida Wilson.
Love it. Cressida.
Cressida.
Very fascinating.
Crisp uniform, hair pulled back in a tight bun, stands up very straight. Like picture of like, this is what your uniform should look like.
I love that.
At all times.
Yes. That's great. Great. Awesome. Now we can do 5 traits.
Oh boy.
You almost gave me one, but I have to use it because I feel like it would be a waste if I didn't. But
okay.
The way, what are your pronouns?
She, her.
Okay.
And what are yours?
They, them. The way I'm writing something like, how do I want to phrase it? The way she makes a military uniform sing.
His dedication to his job. Oh, sorry, there. There.
Okay. She's not afraid to break a rule every now and then.
Ooh, but actually I'm terrified of it. No, I'm just kidding. Let's see here. I'm trying to look at what we put for our objects too. A willingness to try new things.
How much we laugh together. Oh, I just thought of a good one.
Oh boy. I'm gonna just put love of interesting foods.
Yeah, that's good. I wrote her devotion to family.
Ooh, yikes. Can I put the same thing? Can I also put their devotion to family?
You can. And the other thing that can happen sometimes in this game is people become very naturally disillusioned with the same traits or with the same trait. That's happened before where like two people like without even knowing it, it's like, oh, that we basically wrote the same thing. So you could become disillusioned at the same time and end up burning them together. And then you just play one less scene. And
I like the idea too of becoming disillusioned with them at different times.
Yes,
too.
It's very possible.
Fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh, you got this new promotion and you don't actually like your
exactly. Or kind of very different meaning, like for depending on each character. It could look one way for one and one way for the other.
Yeah.
Definitely. So my last one I wrote is she is willing to stand up to authority. And I would definitely stack that last.
I am going to put their joyful laugh.
Aw, that's nice.
And I think I'm going to put dedication to work last. Okay.
Cool.
Woof.
There we go.
Great.
We did it.
Love it. This is why you don't date people at work. Whew.
Yeah.
I will say that I think that got easier the more time, I did it and then watched you guys do it and then now did it myself too. I think it got easier every time too, which is always a good measure of like, does this thing make sense? Does the order make sense if I can pick up on it after a time or two? Yeah.
I've definitely gotten pretty quick with doing this process, having played a lot of the game a lot of times. You kind of learn the kinds of things that work for you for it anyway. Because that's the thing is like, I don't know what works for other people that much because unless I've played with them.
You've never been on other people?
What's that?
I said you've never been other people?
Yeah, I've never been other people, so I don't know what works for other people.
Weird.
Yeah, it's weird.
Amazing. Yeah, this was fantastic. I think the part I struggled with when we're trying to create objects and picking from literally anything.
Yeah.
I can imagine that this works a lot better this object looks interesting in the thrift store, and then creating a story from that sounds fascinating.
Yes.
But like this is great too, but like it took a little bit more thought energy.
Sure.
I had a harder time with the traits, honestly.
Did you?
Just because I think because I knew what was going to happen with them later.
Yeah.
That it was like, I want them to be evocative enough that they can really kind of make something of those scenes, but not enough that I'm like, I've written the scene for you, you know?
Yep.
But also like it does still feel, this is something that came up in our Starcrossed series way back in series 3. There's something about it that is like slightly uncomfortable to me to like define something about somebody else's character.
Yes.
Yeah.
That there is a level of agency there that I'm like, even if I know you're totally cool with it and I know that it's going to all like, I'm like, oh, but I'm writing things about you.
Mm-hmm.
And you're here and you're going to see them.
Yep.
And I made choices for you.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
That I'm still like a little bit like as a player, there's still a part in the back of my brain that's like, that's a no. Don't do that. Like, you know, I have to like turn that off for a little bit.
Absolutely.
And be like, it's okay in this
that
situation.
trust out there.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
But the fact that both the traits and the objects get broken
Yeah.
Yes.
throughout gameplay is phenomenal. And like a dagger to the heart for everyone you throw out there.
That's what I said. I was like, it is brutal. My notes say it is brutal.
Yeah. I had somebody listen, like, I forget what they might have watched the Alchemistresses stream. I forget what stream, but they watched or listened to us play Broken and just commented on it in a Discord channel and basically said that like they knew when they heard the process of creating the traits for the other person that they probably could never play this game because it's just like that was the moment they were like,
I
nope.
mean, it's interesting. I have to like, I look at Ryan and I'm like, Ryan and I know each other well enough.
Yeah.
And have, you know, been doing character creation and kind of talking about what we want out of games for 4 years. We've done nothing but we have played one game together. But in 4 years, we've done nothing basically but talk about what we want out of games.
Yeah.
And Ryan is the kind of person I could play this with.
Yeah.
I struggle to think of almost anybody else that I could sit down and be like, okay, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
After reading this, because it was like, it's so gut-wrenching and knowing what you wanted out of it. And, you know, like when you sent it to me, you were like, hey, can you look it over as somebody who's also been through divorce and all of that kind of stuff. So like looking at it through that lens and being like, my heart, it hurts. You know, that like this definitely isn't for everybody, and that's okay.
For sure.
It's okay. If you listen to this and you're like, that is too much.
Yeah.
Just know that I also think maybe, possibly for me, too much, but I want it so bad.
We take safety very seriously with the game too. So actually one thing I can talk about on here that I haven't talked about publicly too much yet, just because it was still kind of pending, but we do have a safety designer for the game, and that's someone people probably know, which is Bo Yeager Sheldon, who created the script change safety toolset. Is our safety designer for this game and consultant. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, so Bo is going to basically be the final version of this game that we fund will have some more safety designed into the rules. And one of the things that Bo and I talked about was that Bo even pointed it out, that there is just the potential, like this, when you make traits for somebody else, just like making sure that you have consent in that process is important. So we take safety for this game very, very seriously, because like bleed is going to happen in this game. It's going like,
well, and this is a game that's designed to do that.
Exactly.
Like it's not even just a byproduct of the game. This is a game that is designed to encourage that kind of bleed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, I'm glad that, you have somebody on just to help with that part of it. I know that like you definitely from the beginning have had safety mechanics written in there and listed in there. Very clear, like here's what you should and should not do.
Yes.
But I'm glad to hear that you've got somebody coming on to help just kind of see it in all of the little places where it could come up. Because I think that it can show up in places that you don't expect it sometimes too.
Exactly.
Especially as a designer, when you've looked at a game for hundreds and hundreds of hours, you start to like, your eyes kind of glaze over parts of it. And You know,
100%.
to have fresh eyes.
Exactly. No, that's why I knew I needed to. I knew from the very beginning I wanted to have a safety designer that was not me for that very reason, so that I don't miss something. And
it sounds like this project in general is really close to your heart too. So like I think that adds another level of complexity in making sure that it works for everybody else too. You know,
exactly.
Absolutely.
Ryan, where are we on here?
We're on the very last question. If there's anything.
Okay. Well, did we want to ask him any more about like a session 0 or, you know, because we did our character creation stuff. Is there any other stuff that you think on that safety note that you think people should kind of think about or go through for a session 0?
Definitely.
Of this game?
Definitely. So I would say people should talk about like rating, which is something from script, you know, that Script Change talks about, which is, you know, deciding right from the beginning, are we talking about a PG game here? Are we talking about, when I was playing with my spouse over the weekend, I said, are we going to play this PG-13? Are we going to be playing it X, double X, triple X, quadruple X? And of course, because it's my spouse, she's like, every X I add, she's just like making this face that gets more extreme every time I say the X's. Because people don't know, like my spouse and I have played our co-host of Pot of Love, which is a romance. I didn't even say this at the beginning of the show, but I you know, we have been making Pot of Love for 5 years, which is a romance and relationship actual play podcast. And so like we've played a ton of like romance games together.
Like lots of romance kinds of games. You were on our episode to talk about playing romance in games too. So, you know, like you are not shy about like what it's like to play out those kinds of relationships. Well, exactly.
But the funny thing about that is that Mel very much is a like off screen person when it comes to like like, you know, like very much like when we play these games, Mel is very much like you know, it's fine to insinuate, but you know, we're not going to play out.
We fade to black.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So that's why when I said X, double X, triple X, I was like teasing my, like, you know, ooh. Teasing. But yeah, I would say people should talk about rating, talk about like the content of the scene, sort of the general feel. And rating is also important for like tone and genre, because like when we played Alchemistresses, like it was going to be an anime. So, you know, like we're talking about like PG at, well, I guess you're not necessarily, but we played it as like a PG style, like these were high school characters, right? Because it's Alchemistresses. Right. And like there was one kiss, and that was like the extent of PDA in that game. And like, but it meant so much because it was one kiss. Sometimes that's the most powerful stuff. So I would say discussing that kind of thing at session 0, like what your expectations are for that, depending on like what kind of safety tools people want to use. If they wanted to implement things like lines and veils for themselves or include an X card, you know, I would say you would talk about that there. But yeah, I think that's basically all you would need to go ahead and, you know, get started playing. You should also talk about physical safety a little bit too, if you're going to break the physical objects, because because
I did see that, like safety glasses and, you know, all that kind of stuff.
So like, where are you going to break them? What are you going to do with the things once they're broken? That's a real question that you should talk about.
Yeah.
Do you,
100%. And
maybe like, I don't know if this one goes without saying or not, but I mentioned it in the rule book, like breaking objects that are yours to break. And so, you know, maybe can't hurt to talk about that too.
Burning things over here. Just my smoke.
I got my burn proof full. I'm going to use it. Darn it.
I was. Gosh, like I didn't bring it for nothing.
Yeah, it's so good. So yeah, I would think those are the things that you should talk about. I can't think of anything else that I would say you would want to cover in a session 0.
Fire alarms start going off.
Yeah. See, I know now I'm like, I should put something over this. So like, anyway,
it's fine.
I'm listening.
It's fine. Oh, that's very cool. Is there anything then from the crowdfunding campaign that you'd like to highlight?
Yeah, probably should, right? That would make sense if I were to do that. So we are crowdfunding this in mid-July. The goal is for the crowdfunding to kick off. We are itch funding the game to crowdfund this game. So we're using itch.io to itch fund the game. And that's going to kick off on... God willing, that's going to kick off on July 19th. And so there's some really easy links to that. If someone is coming to the game before it goes live in July, you can just go to apongames.itch.io/broken. And that is the page for the game. And so, yeah, that's where people can go and they can back the game. And if you back the game for $15, you can get the full digital copy of the game. You can get the Ashcan version immediately, which is the full playable game with color and art. And it's a really beautiful version of the game that people can just download. Like you'll just get it immediately if you back the game, and then you'll get the final edition, the final ebook once it's done for that $15 level. And then there are some extra stuff that people can do if they want. Like there is a play with the author level if people are interested in that kind of thing. But yeah, so that's the campaign. I don't know if I'm new to selling the campaign, so I don't know if I'm forgetting anything I should be saying to you all, but yeah. But
we'll retweet stuff too as it goes on. Because I'm so excited about this game. Have been excited about it for months. Even though it took me like 2 months to get back to you about it. Stupid life.
Yeah, right.
This was it's just such a good game. And I think I really like knowing what you were setting out to do with it. Like you just hit the nail on the head. Like you hit every mark of like what I would want in a game like this. And I'm so thrilled for it to be out in the world and for people to see it.
Thank you so much for saying that. It really means a lot to hear it. It's really deeply appreciated, more than I can tell you. And I am also very excited for it to be out in the world. Almost desperate at this point for it to be out in the world for other people to play and to experience and to read. So
I don't know if we asked this at the beginning. Usually we ask, but how long were you working on this one before you put it out in the
Thank
world?
you for asking. Broken has been in my brain since around the time when we started Pod of Love 5 years ago in 2017. There was a version of it in my mind. Like I knew, or at least that I wanted to do it. I knew that story would be too long to tell right now, but like as part of my processing for divorce, as part of telling my divorce story, I realized that the only way that I felt like for me personally, I could do that well was to create this game. Like, I don't know why, but that was like the way I felt like I needed to process it. So I knew I wanted to do that. The inspiration for it, for exactly how it was going to take shape, really came around the time we were making Pod of Love very regularly, and Starcross had come out not too long beforehand. And I was inspired by all the games we were playing on that show. I was inspired by Starcross, and I just had this desire to make a tragic game. I was like, well, what if I made a romance game, but I took a tragic take on it? So,
but like the other side of it. Yeah.
So there was there's actually an early version of the game that doesn't have these rules. It's a very different game that we actually recorded to tell a story on Pod of Love back in the day. So that's a couple years old now. And so, the game's been in different forms for a while, and I needed to set it aside for a little bit, in order to like process it, because I was like, I was missing something dramatic that I needed from the game. And actually the thing that I was missing that I finally came back to was breaking objects, which is now the core and heart of the game.
The core center of the game. Yeah. And the part that really like caught me, like I said, is so cathartic. And so, I think what makes almost, I don't want to say what makes it playable, because like it's a wonderfully playable game, but I think what, It tones down some of the sharp pain of it almost, because you have the catharsis of breaking things in between that feels healing. Yeah.
Is it like my design objective from the very beginning was that I wanted to design something where the mechanics of the game mirrored the like topic and the theme and the content of the game. And that's a kind of hard thing to set out to do.
That is to do. Yeah. Like what content does dice rolling really? Yeah. You know, it's like a whole new thing.
And the funny thing is that I knew the game was called Broken before I came up with the breaking object. So it was almost like it was staring me in the face. And so,
oh, come on, self.
Exactly. And so I realized, my gosh, it solved a bunch of design problems I had all at the same time when I realized that was the game. It was like, you know, sometimes writers are like, man, I hope this doesn't sound pretentious or something, but you know, sometimes writers are like, I don't know, it feels like the story comes from outside of myself and it's something I'm tapping into. The design of this game process was, that's how I feel often when I'm writing fiction. And the design of this game was similar to that, where like, it was like tapping into something like in this creative space that felt like coming from somewhere outside of myself. So, you know, I don't know.
Well, and I think you have to, because it's such a topic that's like so close that it almost has to come from somewhere else to be anything coherent, because otherwise it's just going to be too there's just too many feelings, you know? So it's like, it has to be something outside of you, something that you took that break to realize that you know, that it sounds like you've treated with all of the care that it requires too. So I'm really excited
Thanks.
about where you've landed, and I'm so excited for people to see.
I was gonna say it's very much about time for it to get out there now. It's been long enough. I'm ready.
I would
to
like it to not be in my head anymore.
Exactly.
And out in the world. It's somebody else's problem now.
Right. Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for joining us to talk about Broken. This was fantastic. I had so much fun.
Thank you both so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Yeah. Do you want to remind everybody where they can find you online and what other things you have going on?
Yep. So you can find the All Ports Open Network at allportsopen.com. I actually have a link tree if people want to find it. It's that Gamer Priest, and you can find all my links. You can find Apon Games, as I said before, on itch, apongames.itch.io, and our games that we release there. You can hit follow, and then you get all of our, like, when a game goes live, you'll get notified. And you can follow me on Twitter at Benjamin Wallis. By the way, Wallis is spelled Wallis for listeners. So if you're finding me on social media, it's at Benjamin Wallis, but spelled that way. I think that's basically where people can find me.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this special bonus episode of Character Creation Spotlight. And thanks to everybody for tuning in. Do not forget to check out the Broken crowdfunding campaign, which might be going on right now or starting soon. So we'll figure out where that's going to go. But either way, we will see you next time. Character Creation Cast is a production of the One Shot Podcast Network and can be found online at www.charactercreationcast.com. Head to the website to get more information on our hosts, this show, and even our press kit. Character Creation Cast can also be found on Twitter at CreationCast or on our Discord server at discord.charactercreationcast.com. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Bolter, and I can be found on Twitter at Lord Neptune or online at lordneptune.com. Our other host, Amelia and Ben, can be found on Twitter at Ginger Reckoning. Music for this episode is used with a Creative Commons license or with permissions from the podcast they originated from. Further information can be found within the show notes. Our main theme music is Hero, remixed by Steve Combs, and is used with a Creative Commons license. This podcast is owned by us under Creative Commons. This episode was edited by Ryan Bolter. Further information for the game systems used in today's guest can also be found in the show notes. If you'd like to support our show, find us on Patreon. Get access to bonus episodes, extra outtakes, and much more at patreon.com/charactercreationcast. Thanks for joining us. And remember, we find the best part of any role-playing game is character creation. So go out there and create some amazing people. We'll see you next time.
Now we gotta read some show blurbs.
Show blurbs.
Show blurbs.
Show blurbs.
Show blurbs.
Character Creation Cast is hosted by the One Shot Podcast Network. If you enjoyed our show, visit oneshotpodcast.com, where you will find other great shows like One Shot.
On One Shot, you can discover new RPGs through actual play. Every week, James D'Amato brings you a new episode with a rotating cast of improvisers, game designers, and other notable nerds. One Shot has featured over 100 games, exploring a wide variety of genres and tones. The stories are self-contained, so you can jump in anywhere, and it's a great way to find your new favorite game. Discover the magic of RPGs with One Shot on your favorite podcast app. Woohoo!
Hey.
Should be good.
Very strong, clicky.
That was
there. I felt good about that one.
I'm impressed.
I've got some good tea and honey fresh in there, and
yeah, we got that like sweet honey voice.
Yeah, exactly. It's nice.
Okay, are we ready?
I'll be disciplined.
I'm all set.
Okay, I will do a 5 count. Ryan will not laugh at my fingers, and then we'll start.
I am more
I know
than
you've gotten
impressed.
really good at it.
I'm very impressed every time.
Okay.
No, it's good.
All right. What's in a game? I always want to say it. I know that you're going to have to cut all of this noise out. But
it's fine.
I just want to say it.
And that's good.